走进纽交所，直击华尔街。本周美股市场关注的焦点在于密集发布的企业财报以及多名美联储官员的讲话。本周前3天，美股3大股指涨跌互现，基本持平。周四，3大股指悉数全线收低。有哪些企业财报值得大家重点关注？在多名美联储官员接连发表了鹰派讲话之后，5月份联储加息的信号是否已经明确？4月21日周五，我们请到了纽交所明星交易员 Peter Tuchman， 让他来跟我们一起谈一谈本周美股的走势以及对下周的展望。Hi Peter, thank you so much for being here with us today.
My pleasure.
So first of all, tell us what were the main drivers behind the stock markets this week?
So let's see. Look, in any given day in this new market, there are lots of things. There's obviously economic data. We're in the midst of earnings season. Obviously, the banks, all eyes are on the banks, especially coming out of the crisis, and on the brokerage firms. There's obviously a bit of a credit crunch going on. We are now unwinding this high interest rate story, right? So we're on the tag end of lower, of the rise being less than, and hopeful to look towards the future when they're no longer going to be raising rates, and the market and the economy can sort of get a little handle on itself. So those are the driving forces right now. We had some Fed meetings, we had some economic numbers, we had some earnings, and look, in any given day the market is going through a lot.
You just mentioned a lot of companies, they just announced their earning reports, right, this past week?
Yes.
So was there any specific industries or sectors that performed particularly well or particularly poorly, and why?
You know what? I think it was a very mixed release. I think you had JP Morgan did well, and that's because I think they're getting a lot of the overflow from the regional banks and some of the other problem banks. I think Goldman Sachs had some obstacles to it because I don't even know the answer to that. Some of the industrials did well, some of them didn't. Obviously, Netflix and Tesla were the two names that obviously did not come back with satisfactory numbers,
exactly.
Right? Obviously, some supply chain issues and pricing issues within the Tesla world knocked the stock down from 180 back down to about 160.
Yeah.
Right, so that's significant. And obviously, Tesla, the subscription model is one that's challenging coming out of this sort of economic turmoil going forward. So what does that look like on the other end? I think everybody's going to try and start to get their footing now that we're starting slowing down the aggressive interest rate raise, and so I think it's a very telling earnings season, but I think it's sort of more important to see what people's guidance is going forward. What does the story look like on the other side of this relative to the numbers? Because the numbers don't necessarily reflect the most recent challenges we've had within banking. I think there's going to be a lot of contagion and problems within banking itself, within small regional banks, within companies that have had exposure to Credit Suisse and things like that.
Credit Suisse, okay.
Yeah.
So what is your outlook for the market for next week? And are there any specific important factors to watch?
I try not to predict what the market is going to do from one day to the next, because every time I've ever tried to predict it, it's like when you make plan, God laughs, right?
Yeah.
For me, the best thing is I take the market one day at a time. At the end of the day, yes, there's a lot of information coming out. Yes, people have expectations about what's going to happen, but the market movement and the price action is always surprising to me. You can have a company come out with reasonable earnings and it goes down $20. You can have a company that's struggling and it goes up $20. You can have the CPI number, PPI number, ISM number, all of these economic data come out, and I don't know how the market's going to react. The information can give you a bullish outlook, yet the market's reaction to it can be bearish. So I try to never predict. I try not to think. I don't have an opinion. I just take the market one day at a time.
Exactly, like we have seen this week in Johnson & Johnson, their earning report's pretty good,
Yeah.
but their stock price dropped.
So that's a perfect example of it. So there are people way smarter than me. I know I look like Einstein. I'm not that smart. But look, yes, obviously somebody interprets the information, or whether they know something, or they have a bigger axe to grind in it that will make they think, look, there's so many moving parts to this market, right? So when earnings come out, even though they're positive, I'm not sure if it was the conference call that Johnson & Johnson said some things about what the future looks like that made the market sell off, but I try not to ever predict what's going to happen.
Okay, so let's come to the last question. We all know the Fed is going to have their next meeting in May the 3rd, and right now the Wall Street believes it's highly possible for the Fed to raise their interest rate by a quarter of percentage point. So what's your viewpoint on this?
Okay, so look, I think it's a 65% probability that it's going to be one more quarter point move. Obviously, their decision is very economic data driven, right? If we're going to see a good PPI, CPI number that comes out, maybe they will alter that trajectory. At the end of the day, it feels like 25 is going to be the way it is. I think what's way more important than the number is what does Jay Powell say in the conference about, is this the end? The whole investment and trading community is dying to hear that this is the last one we're going to have, and then we're going to let the market adjust to itself. We're going to stop raising interest rates, and hopefully the future is a positive one. So it's more important to me, the press conference after the raise. There's no guarantee there's a raise, but I think the way he positions the story and the guidance going forward is a way more significant bit of information. If he comes out, raises it 25 basis points, and says, you know what, guys, for now, short of a disaster, I'm going to stop raising interest rates and we're going to let the market adjust itself. I think the market's going to really have a positive reaction to that.